What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We are live in the building, guys, and I am excited to have you here into the Confidence Factor Talks. Welcome, everybody, to the show. My name is Rudy LaRose, and I'm excited to be in the building. Man, this is going to be an amazing show. Why? Because we have a special guest in the house. You know what I'm saying? We have a special guest in the house. And guys, man, I can't even begin to tell you how incredibly thankful I am to have him in today. I want to say what's up to Mr. Carl. I see you. Mr. Dr. Ingram is in the building as well. Shalom to you and good evening as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Wherever you're joining us, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to mention where you're joining us from. Just type in your city, where you're joining us from. We'd like to know how we're impacting the world as we understand that Confidence Factor is indeed global. And while we doing that, while you commenting where you watching from, we want to drop a real quick clip to let you know you're at the right place. Go ahead.
Today, before you go out on that field, I want you to do two things. First, I want you to take a good look in the mirror. Who you will see looking back at you is the only person that can make you a winner or loser today. Because only you decide if you will leave your all on that field today. I can't do it for you. Your mom or dad can't. Your brothers can't. No one can but you. It's up to you. You must decide every time you set foot on that field that you will give everything you have inside of you as a matter of personal pride and integrity. If you don't give your heart and soul for the cause, you should be ashamed. It's integrity. It's you versus you. It's self-pride. I don't care if you win or lose the game. Sometimes sport is cruel. But if I see any of you give anything less than 100%, you've lost respect from me. And you should lose it from yourself. You give everything. Leave no regrets out there. Not an ounce of effort. That is what a real champion is made of. Second, I want you to take a look around the room before you go out. These aren't just your teammates. They are your fellow warriors. They are your brothers. They are family. You are family. You die for your family. You sacrifice for your family. You give your heart to your family. If you see one of your brothers need help, go help your brother. If you care for your brothers, you will give anything to your brothers. Now, go out there and give everything you have for yourself, for your family, for your brothers.
There you go. Give yourself for your brothers. And this is what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about specifically something that the brothers, the men in the house deal with every single day. But before I talk about that, I want to bring my co-host for the night on this show all the way from Orlando, Florida, where the magic happens. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Mr. Darian Hill in the building.
Yes. Hey, thanks, Rudy. I appreciate you, my brother, my Sia brother. And listen, I want to welcome everyone who is here tonight. As Rudy mentioned, I am truly excited, and we are truly excited because we have a special guest. And we just want to acknowledge a few people that's here. Who do we have on, Rudy?
Oh man, we've got Javon, we've got Carl, we've got. Wait a minute, stop the press, ladies and gentlemen. We have out of the building, Mr. Bobby Jenkins from Jacksonville, Florida, who we'd like to say happy 20th anniversary, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy 20th anniversary. You deserve the day off. Don't let us catch you slipping. You know what I mean? We're gonna check with Nikki to make sure that you did your due diligence tonight.
Yeah,
but we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for your heart and everything that you do for this community. I appreciate them both, man.
Yeah, man. I see Dr. Ingram is here tonight as well.
Yes,
Dr. Ingram, welcome everyone. And this is a community where you're celebrated, not just tolerated, but celebrated. And so, to our CF brother, Bobby Jenkins, listen, happy 20th anniversary to you, man. We appreciate you, love you. And yeah, the show must go on. So Rudy, man, tonight we have this amazing guest. Tonight we've been talking about this whole aspect of ego. We've been talking about winning versus competing.
That's right. That's right.
And how do you show up? How do you show up effectively so that you create a successful relationship and environment that thrives, right?
Yeah.
And as we talk about here at CF, we are building a platform for 5 million men, creating a community of success, creating a community of collaboration, creating a community of winners, and we do that together. So Rudy, man, I have a question for you, bro. Before we get into the topic tonight, well, tell me about your success for the week, man. I want to hear what's your one success for the week for you.
Man, you know, it's already it's Tuesday, right? And most people say, well, you know, you got to just give me to the end of the week, but nah, not me. I know it's Tuesday, but my success for the week is I've officially, as of this morning, did 10 sets of 15 pull-ups.
Oh,
now,
man.
why is that? Now, why is that important? Like, what's the relevancy in that? Well, there's a big relevancy in that. And that is the fact that probably about 4 months ago, I could only do 3. I could only do 3 pull-ups in general. Just that's it. Just 3, and I was done. Now I'm doing 10 sets of 15. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of times I realize that we want to, you know, we're quick to want to get to the end game. We're quick to want to get to the results. We're quick to want to get to, you know, oh man, I want to do what this person is doing or that person is doing, or I want to do what I used to do. But what I'm realizing is that it's brick by brick, it's layer by layer. I'm realizing it's not just starting, but it's continuing through and pressing through. And the times that I was tired, the times that I didn't want to get up, the times that I was on vacation, the times when, you know, my calluses, you know, are hurting, I still press through. And because of that, today, this morning, I'm averaging, you know, more than I've ever been. I've lost weight. I feel better. I feel healthier. And I believe that in our lives with the guys that we're dealing with, we're not just talking about business and entrepreneurship. We're talking about the whole man. And that's what I learned this week. That was my win this week, is to see how far I've come. And many times we say, well, you know, now that you've come so far, don't look back. Actually, I'm going to look back because I want to see how far I've come. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that.
Listen, so if you can relate to what Rudy says, like, we want to know what your success for the week is. So oftentimes we focus so much on the things that we're not doing right. We want to honor your success. So if you can share with us, you know, in the comments, what is your one success so far for the week? We know we're only on Tuesday, but listen, I know something great happened to you on Monday. So type in the comment section. Let us know what was your success for the week. We want to honor you. We want to highlight you. We want to recognize you for you moving forward in your life. For me, Rudy, as you know, the wifey has been really, you know, on me for years to start training for a half marathon. So, so
I feel it in my knees. I feel it in my knees.
Listen, I'm really feeling the knees. But I've officially started my half marathon training. Did 5 miles yesterday, and so I feel very accomplished. So it's as Rudy mentioned. You know, it's just one step in front of the other, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So I'm not worried so much about the 13.2 miles, right? Or 13.1 miles, whatever it is. I'm just trying to take one step at a time. So we want to honor you guys for being here, for taking one step to show up for CF Factor and what we're trying to do in terms of empowering men and creating an amazing platform that's going to change the lives of so many families and communities globally, right?
That's right.
So you know, we talked about the special guests we have, and I want to kind of give you guys a little bit of a little teaser of who we have coming on. We have someone who really knows about our topic for today, which is, what does a healthy ego look like, and how do you create an environment where having healthy egos really thrives and creates a successful environment. And this is a former football coach. And he's an athlete himself, but also a football coach, not just in the college arena, but in the pros.
In the pros. That's right.
Someone who's really taken the helm of an NFL teams, and I'm just excited to have him here because he's going to share some of his success principles with you guys. So you want to stay tuned. Of course, we're talking about winning versus competing. This is a part 2 in the series. Last week we talked about why do men fail in coming together and building successful communities. And this week we're talking about what does a healthy ego look like. And so last week, man, we really dove into it, Rudy. We talked about, some of the things that CF, really did. What we did, all three of us did, to make sure that once we got to the table with this organization, that we really were able to be fruitful in the way in which we operated together. And one of the things we talked about was really being totally raw and authentic and honest about not just the great things, but our shortcomings, right? Or mistakes, the things that we're still working on healing. And oftentimes, when we go into relationships or we go into partnerships, when you leave that stuff at the door and you don't really show up whole and fully authentic, that has an impact on the relationship. It has a significant impact on a relationship because people can't manage expectations with you. People can't hold you up when you have areas of weakness. And so it's so essential to make sure that when you're going to partner with people, to be able to create a winning environment, that you're truly bringing your whole self to the table. And so for the men that's listening right now, to under the sound of my voice, this is a platform and a community that we want to create so that when you show up to an environment where you can really be accepted fully in who you are. And we embrace you, we heart level you in who you are, and we make sure that everybody understands some of the areas of improvement and some of the areas where your zone of genius is. And that's one of the biggest things we talked about last week, man. And I think it was so critical for people to really get that. Your thoughts on our show last week.
And also, what I love is the fact that when we're talking about ego, a lot of times people think, well, just go negative with it. And ego is not necessarily bad. It's that self-image. It's the way you see yourself, the way you interact as a person, as a man or woman. And when I think about, the fact that we were able to get together from different backgrounds, different walks of life. Yeah, though we're all entrepreneurs, but we've had different experiences, and to be able to come to the table and unite for a common cause that's greater than ourselves, for me, that was a mind-blowing opportunity to really check myself and say, what's my motive? Why am I here? What's the purpose of me being here? What's the purpose of me being here tonight? And really, taking the time away from my family to speak into a camera, if you will, but more importantly, to speak into those who are listening and to watching. Mm-hmm. And I realized last week that the ability for me to check my ego and to check my the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, it has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with the purpose that we're here today. Yeah. And so when you begin to internalize that and you begin to understand, man, it's not about me. It's about the whole team. It's about the whole game. It's about, winning and not competing. I'm not here to compete against you guys, Darian and Bobby and whoever else comes along. I'm here to win collectively together. And sometimes winning means you have to lose to yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to lose to the whole attitude that you have, or the bad day, or I don't feel like it, or I'm tired, or I want to deal with other things. You have to put those things in the back burner. And that's what I got at the show last week, man.
Yeah.
It was really powerful.
I love what you said, because one of the things we, as a foundation for success, and I encourage everyone to do this, we are driven primarily by purpose, right? And so once you have a real clear purpose for your life, then that's going to drive you to continue to make things work. And I think one of the things that we came up with was we always said it's about the mission, So whenever we had to deal with tough conversations or, issues that we may not have liked, we always made it about the mission. So ultimately, it wasn't going to be a personal issue. It was about the purpose, about the mission. And everybody fell in line because of that. So that is critical, for one of the things that we did. And it's so critical for, people in different organizations to understand that everyone is going to come with their own individual personalities and their own thoughts, their experiences, their backgrounds. But when you make it about the goal, when you make it about the mission, and of course, we have a football coach who's coming on tonight. And of course, when you think about sports, to me, that's what I see those guys do. It's all about the championship. It's all about winning. And if you have, different egos, everybody trying to have their own agenda, then guess what? You can't have a winning team, right? Nope. As Samuel says, together, everyone achieves more. And together everyone achieves more means that there must be some management of expectations, and there must be some guidelines and some things put in place to make sure everyone is on the same wavelength. Even though there are different personalities, everyone must be on the same wavelength. So, as we're talking about, what a healthy ego looks like, one of the things I wanted to talk about specifically is what does the ego sometimes want, right? Mm-hmm. In these situations, what does the ego want? How does it not serve us in many respects? A lot of times when we show up, what we don't realize that ultimately, and I'll say this, ultimately, the ego's ultimate goal is to protect us, right? It's there primarily for survival. But the way it manifests in situations to protect us, it doesn't serve us. So for instance, one of the things that the ego does is it doesn't want to take responsibilities, wants to blame others, right? Mm-hmm. So in situations, a lot of times, because you are trying to hide, it says ego's goal is to protect. Exactly. So because you're trying to, hide from being wrong, okay? What you do is you project off the thing on somebody else versus you holding responsibility for whatever it is, right? So you blame others. And I've been guilty of that myself. I can raise my hand and say, hey, I got the T-shirt and I drank the Kool-Aid, right? Yeah, I've been guilty of that, And I think it's because I know about you, but I think in a culture we're brought up in a culture where it's kind of backwards, Woody, where you're not supposed to make any mistakes, right? You're supposed to be perfect, and perfection is an illusion. And so the ego is always trying to stop you from making a mistake. Why? Because making a mistake means that you're what? You're wrong.
You're wrong. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You grow up in a culture, you make a mistake, you're bad, you're wrong, you're stupid, whatever things that you may have been brought up around learning or indoctrinated to think that you are because you made a mistake. And so oftentimes, we're talking to entrepreneurs. It doesn't really serve you very well as an entrepreneur if you have that mindset where you can't make a mistake, because as Rudy, one of my favorite quotes comes from Winston Churchill, who says that success is going from failure to failure.
Without losing enthusiasm. That's right.
That's right. So it doesn't serve us in that capacity at all when we're entrepreneurs, where the ego shows up and says, well, hey, we can't make any mistakes. We have to be perfect, that type of thing. And then I think this is a big one, especially for men coming together in environments where, you have a sense of maybe some insecurities. You have a sense of not being validated a lot of times, depending on the point that you come from, is that you try to project to be number one. You always want to be the big boss, the person who's leading, the person who gets the most recognition, right? The person who's everyone acknowledges for the project, right?
Yep.
You ever been around guys like that?
Yep. That validation is huge, man. Especially, in my life, one of the things that I realized early on was not having a father around to raise me. I didn't have that person that says, go Rudy, you can do it. Or, you're great. You're wonderful. You're going to be awesome. Not that my mom couldn't do that. But when you, as a man, or even as a young boy, when you're trying to listen for that sound, that voice that resonates as a man, that tells you how awesome and great and amazing you are, and you don't hear that, you get to real life and you're like, and you almost crave that, what I mean? And you really got to check that, because at the end of the day, though I didn't get it, I had to feed into my purpose and feed into why I was doing the things that I was doing, in order for me to give that to myself, really, and to allow myself to be in a space where even if it's not said, I give it my best. Even if it's not said, hey man, you're great or you're wonderful, you're whatever, but I still give it my best. I still, go 100% at everything that, that I do. And that's important, man. That's an important one.
No, it really is. And one of the other things and ways it doesn't serve us too is that sometimes we don't open ourselves to receive feedback, right?
That's a good one.
And that's a huge one for us.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know if you drive with your wife, but this tends to happen to me. I'm guilty of this. Sometimes it's like you're driving and you want to ask for directions, but you don't. Yep. Because I'm gonna.
No, we don't do that at all. We don't do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out, right? So oftentimes getting feedback, and we experienced this very recently, as you guys may or may not know. Recently we attended an event for one of our business friends. And we were around the table of discussion talking about confidence factor, and people were asking us questions, and because of sometimes the way sometimes people ask you a question, you may not respond very well to the way somebody may challenge you or whatever the case is. And so we were put in the hot seat, if you will.
Yep, we sure are. We sure were.
We were put in the hot seat and being asked a bunch of questions. And so, for all of us, there was a sense that the ego was triggered a little bit, right? And initially, you could see that we all kind of went in this defense mode, and the way how we were responding was very defensive. But after a while, because of the training, because the fact that all three of us got together and dealt with the areas in our life where we had some weaknesses, and we recognized that we have an ego, and the ego is there to protect us. We are aware of it. And we are aware that it sometimes can be triggered in circumstance. We were able to course correct very, very quickly. And what's amazing about that is we were then able to then open up ourselves to learn the lessons and the things that we were meant to learn as a result of those questions. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So think of your own self. I mean, I don't know, you may have recognized that you've been in a situation where, someone was trying to give you some feedback and maybe they didn't come across the way you would have liked, right? Maybe their tone was a little bit different than you would like, or
it was off. It was a little off.
or the way it occurs for you is that the tone is off. And so, so you didn't respond the best. You felt challenged. And so then you have to defend yourself, right? That defense mechanism now, that defense posture is all about the ego being triggered because it doesn't want to be challenged. It doesn't want to be made wrong. It doesn't want to look bad. And so, but for us, because of the work that we've been doing in understanding our awareness and about our egos, we were able to really walk away from that experience, learning a lot, making the necessary adjustments, and listening to everyone what they were really saying, because ultimately their intent was to help to serve us. And so a lot of times there are people in your life that's trying to say things to you, and because of the ego, you don't allow for the feedback to really happen and really take it in so that you can really take the information and use it in a very, very productive way. And so
I love what Samuel says. Samuel says, sadly, genuine common plus unity, as in community, is what's lacking for our collective success. Yeah. He also said mistakes. I like that. Mistakes. Yeah. Mistakes are learning lessons, as we can always take another take, in other words, because we missed the take. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Got some
right? And Dr. Ingram said, because most men lack the validation from a father, whether good or bad, they seek to overachieve and overcompensate through personal and professional pursuits and miss self-assurance. Wow, man, we get some great comments on here, man.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I love what Dr. Ingram said, because what a lot of times what we don't recognize is that our environment shapes who we become. Like environments that we're brought up in, whether you had a father, don't have a father. Because I have a father, and my father was in my life. And so sometimes one of the things that shapes you is the stories that you tell. Because I remember one time my dad said something about why I wasn't getting good grades like other kids. And I made up a story that I wasn't smart enough. And Rudy, that literally drove me my whole life. The way I showed up and the way I compensated through life, the way I manipulated through life, was trying to prove to the world that, no, look, I am smart. Trying to prove to my dad, look, I am smart, right? That was my whole existence. And so, you know, those experiences that you have, the stories that you tell based upon those experiences, the meanings that you give to those experiences can certainly dictate the way how you think, how you feel, how you act, and ultimately the results that you get. So being aware of that ego, being aware of what Samuel said, and our mistakes are just lessons learned, are so critical to your overall development. You know, so it's so key to understand that. But at the end of the day, listen, ego is really there to serve you. Even though these are areas where it shows up, where you show up with respect to ego that doesn't serve you, is there to protect you. It's part of who we are. You don't get rid of your ego. You learn to work with the ego, and you learn to use it in the capacities where it does serve you. You know, and we're excited because we're bringing on a guest shortly who's going to really share some areas of, you know, where you can kind of put the ego in check and make sure that you have success with developing a healthy ego. And of course, we're going to have that shortly. But one of the things I wanted to let everyone know about before we get the guests on is we have an upcoming challenge, a 7-day Unleash Your Riches challenge. And when you hear the word riches, you may be thinking, is he just talking about money? No, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about living a rich life. Because the reality is success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, right?
Failure, that's right.
So many times we chase the ultimate dollar, and we are defined by the levels of income that we bring in, and we define ourselves by that, but it's not like satisfaction in it. And we've learned from mentors like Dr. Ingram that if you don't have purpose, if you don't have levels of fulfillment in your life, you can have all the money you want, right? But you're not going to have levels of fulfillment. So one of the things that we have is a 7-day challenge. And if you go to our challenge, let me make sure I have the URL right. It's challenge.confidencefactor.com. That's challenge.confidencefactor.com. And go ahead and sign up. We're going to be literally creating 7 days. We're going to go deep dive into sharing some success principles. We're going to help you to shift your focus to really uncover some of those beliefs that don't serve you and give you an action plan so that you can shift and start moving towards your particular purpose, right? So we want to start with you, and I'm really excited. You got anything on that, Rudy?
Yeah, man. Let's bring him in. Let's bring in Coach, man. Man, listen, I already feel pumped up. You know what I mean? From him coming on board and sharing with us his experience. But before he comes on board, I got a short little clip for him that I'd like everybody to see. Check this out.
Phil Murphy here for ESPN's College Football, and I'm joined by third-year Kansas head coach Charlie Weis. Keep it locked right here on ESPN.com.
How you doing, man? It's good to see you, man. How you been?
Man, I just love the love that he gets when they see him. You know, it's just amazing to see that, you know. And without further ado, Charles Joseph Weis is an American football coach. He was the head coach for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish from 2005 to 2009 and the Kansas Jayhawks from 2002 to 2014. Wow. He also served as an offensive coordinator in the National Football League, better known as the NFL, for the New York Jets, New England Patriots, and the Kansas City Chiefs. He is a local right here in South Florida. Some of you know him as coach. Some of you may know him as dad. Some of you know him as, you know, whatever. I know him as a client and a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Mr. Charlie Weis in the building.
I'll tell you what, Rudy, it's getting deep around here right now. trouble out when I get done here. Yeah, come on, and I figured I'd tune in a little early just to listen to what you're talking about, and I don't think that there's any way that I could comment on all the different issues that you were addressing. So let me just zero in on one or two.
Yes.
I mean, one of the big points of emphasis that you were talking about was ego, and having been basically a professional football coach for 40 years, I coached in high school, I taught and coached in high school, coached in college for about 2 decades, and coached in the pros for about 2 decades. So all that tells you is I'm an old man, but I've coached at all 3 levels. And as we had talked prior to the show, your job's a little different when you're a coach on the different levels.
That's right.
But one thing stays consistent, that anytime you're involved with a successful venture,
Mm-hmm.
one thing is able to happen that is quite unique when you're dealing with people who have very strong opinions about their worth, especially in the business that you're doing, and very, very strong egos.
Mm-hmm.
To the fact that I spent a number of years in New England, okay, and in the last 2 decades, if you picked one franchise at any professional team sport that best typified success, it would be the New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
6 Super Bowl championships. I was there for the first 3 of them. So I was there for the ones in 2001, 2002, 2004, 2005, or 2000. Like 3 out of those 4 years we won Super Bowl championships. Then I left and went to Notre Dame as the head coach.
Right.
And one of the signs that was like all over our building was check your egos at the door. Check your egos at the door. So what exactly did that mean? Well, you had an owner who had a very high opinion of himself, a head coach who had a very high opinion of himself, a quarterback by the name of Tommy Brady had a very high opinion of himself. Okay, you had a number of assistant coaches that had very high opinions of themselves, a number of players who had very high opinions of themselves. So you have all these different, people, this diverse group of people,
right,
okay, that are coming into one building, and how is it going to work to put out a productive, successful product?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way is everyone swallows their ego,
yep,
and just goes in, understands what their job is,
yep,
and does their job.
Yep.
Well, anytime you watch documentaries on Bill Belichick, who's probably the greatest pro football coach of all time,
mm-hmm,
and might end up the winningest football coach of all time, he already has done that as far as Super Bowls go. You'll hear his phrase all the time: do your job. Do your job. Because the bottom line is, if everyone understands their role, okay, their role in all successful businesses, the only way it works is if you do what you're supposed to do and do it better than anyone else can do it.
right.
Because
right.
when you have all these people coming up and getting that done, that usually means you're going to have a very, very good chance to be successful and a high rate of success. Now, I've been in places that's not the case. As a matter of fact, I was the head coach at Notre Dame from 2005 to 2009. Now, I ended up getting let go after my 5th year there. And rather than hemming and hawing, anytime you get let go from a place, rather than bitch and moan about why you get let go, you should go back, reflect, and say, what could you or would you have done differently? And one of the biggest issues that I had is I never created that same chemistry that existed that when we were in New England. Now, did I always agree with Coach Belichick? Absolutely not. We didn't always agree, and there was friction sometimes. But that being said, it was he was the boss. I understood who the boss was, and my job was to go run the offense as best as you could run the offense. Because I understood that, I could suppress my ego and not think that I was something special, and just to understand that I was just part of a winning organization because we did it better than anyone else. We were able to build chemistry, we weren't all buddies.
Right.
Okay, but we were able to build chemistry because everyone understood that part of being the best is for everyone that you're affiliated with to be on the same page. And I think that is probably the biggest mistake that companies make at any level. You're talking about entrepreneurs, you're working with people. If you're not on the same page, the chance of success goes down exponentially.
Right.
Okay, or you are on the same page, the chance of success goes up exponentially. And I think that's one thing that people just don't get. They think just because you surround yourself with a bunch of good people, somebody's going to wave a magic wand and it's all going to come together.
No, sir.
That's not the way it works.
That's right.
So for anyone who's involved in what you guys have been talking about, okay, you need to understand that if you can't get your ego under control and everyone who is affiliated with you get their egos under control and can't get everyone to understand to form chemistry, everyone has roles to play and you want to play that role as best you can without overstepping your bounds. Okay, that's when you that's when you have success. And the bottom line is we all want to be successful.
Absolutely.
I never heard anyone that I've ever talked to wake up and say, yeah, I want to be a failure this year. Somehow I've never heard that conversation. But I've watched people that were destined for failure because, you could see the friction in the building. Just go watch a lot of these NFL organizations that are changing coaches every couple of years. Why is that happening? It's happening because obviously either you're picking the wrong people or the people are not doing their job the best they possibly could pick for you end up having success.
Right.
So as I look at that, you guys are talking about a bunch of things, but if ego is one of them, getting people to check their ego at the door, including yourself.
Yes.
Okay, when I say check your ego, it's not just them, it's you too.
That's right.
One of the things you have to do as a boss, the number one thing you have to do is listen. Now you don't need to do you don't need to get the advice from somebody and actually do it, but you need to listen to it and decide whether or not you want to do it or not. You need to listen. People want to say you need to communicate. Yeah, you do need to communicate. But how many times have you run into people that you're talking and they're shaking their head yes, and they're not hearing a damn word you say? I call those people story toppers. Whatever you say, they have one to top whatever you say. I can't tell you how many times I've said a story and somebody goes, I got one better than that.
Wow.
And the next thing you know, they were rowing the boat right ahead of George Washington going across to Delaware. I mean, those type of people are destined for failure because they don't get it. They don't get that this is usually success in any business is affiliated with a team. Now, the team might be 3 people, or the team might be 300 people. It all depends on where it goes. I've watched, for example, Rudy. You started off as a one-man gang. Well, you're not a one-man gang anymore.
No, sir.
Well, you started off as a one-man gang.
That's right.
Okay, so all these people, you didn't have to have these people answering to you, or you answering to them at one time. Now, if a few of your people are bad apples and aren't team players, you're losing money.
Yes, sir.
And your chance for success goes down a lot.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go off on one other subject, and I'll leave it in case you guys have anything to question. Another subject I mentioned briefly, and this is not really on subject, but it's something I think that you need to understand. Like I said, I coached and taught at high school and in college and in the pros. And you need to understand, who exactly are you talking to?
That's good.
Who are you talking to? For example, I'll work backwards. I'll talk about in the pros. When I talk to a pro athlete, I live by 3 rules. I would imagine you'd want to hear those 3 rules.
Yes, sir.
All right. Number 1, teach the players what to do. Don't assume just because they're men, they know what to do. Teach them what to do. Number 2, always tell them the truth, regardless of the consequences. How many times do you deal with people in business that are just BSing all the time because they're worrying about hurting somebody's feelings? You got to tell them the truth. People are going to see right through you, especially other professionals. They're going to know that it's a bunch of BS. Always tell them the truth, regardless of the consequences. And last but not least, don't try to be their friend. Be friendly, okay, but you're not doing this. You don't have people working with you to be their friend, okay? I coach guys. I'm friendly with a lot of players. When I'm done coaching with them, I could be their friend. Well, I'm going to have to be the guy that disciplines them. I might be the guy that ends up having to cut them and get rid of them. So teach them what to do. Always tell them the truth, regardless of the consequences, and don't try to be their friend. You want to know who told me that? O.J. Anderson, who was a running back for me back years ago with the New York Giants, after my first year in the NFL, said, "Charlie, you're destined to be a head coach. So let me give you 3 bits of advice." They were the 3 things he told me back in the early 90s. And that was right after he had been the Super Bowl MVP for Super Bowl 25. That was the advice he gave me, because after 1 year, he pulled me aside and said, "Look, the sky's the limit for you, so let me give you some advice."
Wow.
When I coached in college, these guys looked like grown men too. But I remember I said, you have to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
18 to 23-year-old hormonal young men. Well, you have to factor that in, though.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between talking to an 18-year-old and talking to a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
You could say it's the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
So although you might talk to the team really rough and tough, and might use an occasional bad word, you also need to know when to go put your arm around a guy and say, "Hey, you okay? What's going on, my man?" Because in sports, there's very little racism in sports, because you end up having to be colorblind because that's who you got. We're all on the same team. I don't even remember ever there being a discussion about an issue between a black player and a white player ever.
Wow.
I never remember one.
Wow.
Now, we'd have some discussions about some minority assistant coaches not getting head coaching opportunities. We'd have that, and that problem still exists today, as you noticed. Okay. Yeah. Never would you ever hear there was never the conversation never existed, because putting out blood, sweat, and tears together, it becomes irrelevant.
Yep.
So knowing the difference between an 18-year-old guy and a 23-year-old guy was significant and knowing their family background, because some kids have one parent, some kids have two parents, some kids have four parents, some kids have no parents.
Yeah.
So you need to know that. Then if they, for example, they were close with some girl, is it his fiance, is it his girlfriend, is it serious, is it not serious? Knowing all those things were important, because you weren't just a football coach. You were a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So it meant it was totally different. And last but not least, from teaching and coaching in high school, these were now formidable kids. And I say kids, I'm not saying it in a derogatory way. I'm saying you're talking about 15-year-olds to 18-year-olds. They needed you.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to be more than a football coach. You needed to be a parent. You needed to be a community leader. You needed to be a civic leader. You needed to be a church-going leader. You needed to do all those things because you were influencing their lives in so many different ways. So on that note, I will leave that but I wanted to explain to you the significance and the importance of you need to know who exactly you're talking to, because they're going to fit somewhere in that spectrum.
Right.
They're fit, and how you address them is going to be directly related to where they are in the spectrum.
Woo. Wow.
That's fun. I have a bunch of questions. You have a question, Rudy? You want to ask?
No, go ahead. Go ahead first.
So this is kind of interesting, Coach. First of all, I love what you shared about, really taking some time to reflect after you were let go from. I think you mentioned Notre Dame. You reflected, and why do you think that's so critical when you have those moments where you lose an opportunity, or maybe things didn't work out the way you thought it would work out? Why is that so critical to do that reflection time?
Because there's only two ways people react to when something bad happens. One, they blame everyone else, or two, they say, okay, it happened. Now, what can I do to try to prevent it from happening again?
Mm-hmm.
That's your two alternatives, right?
Yeah.
It's everyone else's fault but yours. I mean, I didn't think I should have got let go. I didn't want to get let go, but I did get let go. Okay, so rather than sit there and have ill will toward them, okay, what can I, what did I learn from this? And one thing it was blatantly clear to me is I was never able to create that same chemistry with my coaching staff that we had when we were in New England.
Yeah.
So, and now this was my deal. It wasn't Belichick's deal. This was my deal. So rather than blame, there's two ways you could go. You could blame those coaches, or you could say, I never got it right. Mm-hmm. So even though indirectly it might have been those coaches' fault, directly you're in charge.
Right.
Really, that's your problem, not their problem, because you're the ones that brought them in there.
Yeah, no, I love that. You talked about creating that chemistry, and that's one of the things you learned from Coach Belichick that you did not implement.
I implemented it, I didn't do a very good job of it.
You didn't do a good job. I love it. So here's another question for you. I mean, you've had the opportunity to work with some of the best of the best. And, when it comes to success principles and watching people who are successful, those who succeed and those who fail, what would you say was some of the major characteristics of, those players who really excelled and the ones who didn't? What were some of the things you saw?
Just like any other business, intelligence and work ethic.
Interesting.
You'd be surprised. Football is a very cerebral game, and it doesn't mean that everyone was book smart. Okay, because there's some people they're not book smart, but were football smart. In other words, they might not learn in the classroom, but when it happened to them on the field and they understood it, they understood it. Mm-hmm. And their longevity usually, as long as they had work ethic and they were intelligent, they could, obviously talent comes in, but you said what separated them? What you're talking about? We're not talking about athletic ability now. We're talking about work ethic and intelligence.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah, thank you for that. I know. I'm always trying to look for those gems. The ways in which how can you have a competitive advantage if you have two people of equal, skill set? What separates them? What can one do to really make sure that they?
For example, with me, okay,
Yeah.
I was a great athlete, but when I was going up the ranks till the day I left, I was first or second in the building and last to leave for 40 years. I usually was first in the building, except when I worked with Dante Scarnecchia, who was the offensive line coach of the Patriots. Because I'd get in around 4:30, and he'd be there already. So when I'm saying you get there at 4:30 and you stay there until midnight every night, that's a long day.
Yep.
That's a long day. But other than when I worked with him, I'd be the first one there and the last to leave. And it wasn't there because I was just putting in time. It's just believe because I was gonna. The two things I was gonna do, I was gonna use my brain and I was gonna outwork him.
Use your brain to outwork them. I heard that.
Yep.
What you got, Rudy?
So one of the things that is interesting to me about sport, especially professional sports, is that 1 minute you could be playing for one team and another minute you're playing for another team, and you're actually having to now go against a team that you were, once part of. How do you find a way to manage, having men work together that might be from different teams or different part of towns or different, aspect of life? What are some of the key principles that you implemented to help them work together as a team?
Actually, that was never really much of an issue.
Wow.
It wasn't much. If a player came in, if we traded for a player, I got him in on Tuesday morning, they'd be ready to play in that game that Sunday.
Wow.
Now, they wouldn't know everything.
Right.
But they'd be ready to play in that game that Sunday.
Right.
As far as going against their old teammates, when they're on the field, they're not thinking about that.
Right.
They're really not.
It's about the job, like you said.
It's just part of what happens.
So it's also mean like you recruit well. If you recruit well, then your team will be there.
My best recruit was my wife. Rudy will attest to that.
I know all the ladies that go like, yeah, right now.
Just like everyone, I have 4 Super Bowl rings, right? And at this stage right now, the only ring I wear is my wedding ring. So here's you want brownie points? Here you go. When people say, "Hey, you got a Super Bowl ring on?" I said, "Nope, I'm wearing the only ring that matters."
That's right.
That's good for points every time, fellas.
That's right.
Everything.
That's good stuff. Well, wow. Coach, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. This has been amazing. Can you tell people where they could find you? I know you have a talk show that you do. Let people know.
I'm on Sirius XM channel 8 at the NFL Network channel 88, Monday through Friday from 10 till noon. On Tuesdays, we're on from 9 to 11 because Brett Favre comes on from 11 to 12. Okay. But if you just want to listen to me talk about NFL football, Monday through Friday, Sirius channel 88, I'm there.
All right. Well, you can take the man out of the NFL, but you can't take the NFL out of the man. I get it.
All right. Thank you,
Coach. Have a great night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Listen,
woo!
So I know you guys kind of know them.
I got notes, bro. I got notes.
Listen, one of my coaches always said, like, what you write down, you expect to happen. So hopefully you guys were taking notes. I mean, here's it that you have an opportunity to hear from someone who has coached some of the best of the best.
Yep.
And I was just sopping it up, man. I try to listen to all the key gems of things you can implement. And that's what we want to do here at Confidence Starter, to really bring people who have gone through life and learned the lessons and be able to share the value with you guys so you can implement that in your life as well. So thank you so much for Coach for being here again. I really appreciate him. And we certainly thank you guys for being here. Of course, we want to make sure everyone again knows that we have our challenge coming up. If you're enjoying these conversations, you're enjoying our community, you want to be part of this environment, you want to be a part of an environment, as Coach says, where everybody's playing for the same team. Watch this particular video. I want you guys to see this based upon our challenge. That's right. That's right. That's right. 7 days, unleash your riches challenge. You can click on the link in the description above this video. Go ahead and click on the link above the video. Go to the landing page, fill out the form, and get excited. It's going to be a fun 7 days. If you enjoyed this, right? If you enjoyed this 1 day with us, imagine 7 days with us, right? Imagine 7 days going deep dive in a lot of the success principles. Yeah, man. Woody, this was a good one, man. Take us out, champion.
Man, this was definitely a good one. I would acknowledge Samuel, of course, Dr. Ingram, Javon, and whoever. I've got Jose, Marie, Camille, Peter, Chocho, Martine. I mean, everyone who's joined us on this conversation tonight. We thank you. We honor you. We see you. Dr. Ingram said, I take little issue with checking your ego at the door because the ego is not a bad thing, but it helps us work, achieve, and thrive. And yes, I love it. The fact that we check it doesn't mean we leave it at the door, but we make sure we put filters to that thing. And like Coach said, knowing when we enter a building, enter a place, we know where we're entering, how we're entering, but more importantly, we know our job. We know what exactly we're here to do. And that's what I got out of it tonight is know what you're here to do. Know your purpose, understand your purpose. But because when you do, it's not even about the next person, man. It's not even about you. Yeah, but it's about the mission. It's about the mission, man.
And I love how that tied all together, man, with CF. Yeah. Because like you said, it's about the mission. And, when you just remove that from the situation, remove that from disrupting, know your role, know the game that you need to play, then everything just moves smoothly. And it really ties into purpose. Ultimately, it's about purpose. It's about purpose. Love it.
Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, as an IT, I want to leave you guys with this thought is that, when you go into a situation, the next time you go into a situation, first ask yourself, why are you there? What's the purpose of you being there? I'm not talking about just a job. I'm talking about in everything that you do in life. When I go work out in the morning, I know why I'm there. When I spend time with my wife, I have to know why I'm there. When I spend time with my clients, I have to know why I'm there. The why has a lot to do with how you're able to check your ego and have a healthy ego, because then you understand your mission. And that is so critical for us men, is that in everything that we do, we have to understand our mission. That is what I got from Coach. That is what I've got from the conversation that we have. That is what I get from these men that I surround myself with, is they help me stay focused on the mission. That is our show for tonight, guys. Be sure to check out challenge.confidencefactor.com. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Sign up. The link is in the description below. And we will see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Same time, same confidence channel. And remember, in everything that we do it at heart level, baby. Heart level.